Welcome to Real Talk Real Estate, the show where we cover how to build wealth in real estate with no fluff, no BS, and no sales pitches. I'm David Green, and I've been doing this for over 10 years. I've seen the ups, the downs, and everything in between. This is the show where we pull back the curtain and show it to you too. So if you want to build wealth through real estate or you just love learning about it, you found your home. This is the David Green Show, and welcome to Real Talk Real Estate, the show where we pull back the curtain and share stories, details, and insight into the craziest world of real estate business and investing. It's also the biggest, the baddest, and the best real estate show on the planet. I'm your host, David Green, and we're going to get into it. Today's show is brought forth by you, the community of Real Talk Real Estate. We take questions from all of you and answer them for everyone to hear. So if you'd like to be featured on the podcast, if you want to support the show, and if you want to be a bigger part of the community we're building, head to davidgreen24.com/ask. Submit your video there. We can have you featured on the podcast. In today's show, we talk about how to transition in business, real estate, and life, when to hire others, how to leverage safely and the order to do it in, how to scale a portfolio wisely, when to invest in new areas versus sticking with what you know, what's going viral on the internet, popular real estate news articles, and more. So if you've only got one place to get your real estate information, I sincerely think it should be here. Also, if you're tired of inspiration, fluff, and hype telling you that you're not doing good enough because you're not a 22-year-old with 8,000 units in 14 months, you have found your new home. We're going to get into it shortly, but before we do, I've got a quick ask from all of you. I'm growing. I need someone to help me develop a WordPress site. I need video editors. I'm looking to hire loan officers for the one brokerage, and I'm looking to hire an employee for my property management company to help manage short-term rentals. If you're looking for a job, you want to work in real estate, and you know that you have talent and something to offer, I want to talk to you. Send me a DM. I'll give you my email, and you can let me know what positions you're interested in. All right, that's all I had. Let's get to our first question. This comes from Keith in Orange County.
Hey, good evening, David. Keith Murphy here, big fan of your content and what you've done in business. I'm posting a question on your site to hopefully encourage you to talk about. I think I might fit this profile that many others do, which is I'm almost 60 years old. I've got approximately 50% of my net worth tied up in the equity of my home here in South Orange County, near Mission Viejo. I sent you a link to my property profile on the video on the website, but I really want to know what you think could happen to inflated markets like South Orange County when and if the economy slows, and or if rates drop and we have a flood of inventory from people who are held up from selling due to holding on to their low mortgage rates. Again, bravo on your new change with your podcast. I think it's going to be fantastic. Love your work and hope to hear back from you. Thank you, David.
All right. Thank you, Keith. Wow. Hitting this one from both sides, I believe. You're asking me what's going to happen in inflated real estate markets like South Orange County. And then you mentioned what's going to happen if the economy slows down, meaning that houses don't sell, or if it heats up from interest rates going down and people buy them for more. So it's hard to answer that because we're assuming that either extremes could happen, but then again, nothing could happen. So let's see if we can cover this from every angle. If the economy slows down, what that usually means is that there are less transactions that take place. I think it's erroneous to assume that a slow economy equals lower priced housing. Now, we have typically just assumed that was the case, but let's break it down. When somebody sells their house, they don't drop the price below what they need it to be at. How do they determine what it needs to be at? What a buyer's willing to pay. So the real question is, how does a buyer decide what they are willing to pay? Well, typically, they look at what other options they have, and they go with the option that's the best. This is why if you have 20 houses for sale, but 10 people looking to buy them, the only 10 houses that are going to sell are going to be the cheapest ones. So when you get more supply than demand, you have to push prices down. But what's making the prices go down is that the lower priced your home is, the more desirable it is to a buyer. Just like the better condition your house is in, the more desirable it is to a buyer. Sellers need to make their houses desirable to buyers. Now, in the last 10 years, they did that by making it look nicer. They didn't have to drop the price because there wasn't enough inventory. So just a house being on the market and available for sale itself made it desirable. So to sum this up, if you want home prices to drop, it has to be sellers having a hard time with their houses desirable to buyers and being forced to drop the price to do so. What causes that is too many houses available for sale. Now, let me prove this point. Think about the last time that home prices dropped. It was late 2009, 2010, 2011, a little bit of 2012. The reason they dropped is there was so much inventory on the market at one time. Now, what you've heard was there was a foreclosure crisis. There was a bad economy. All that's true. But the foreclosure crisis and the bad economy themselves didn't make home prices go down. They led to an increase in supply that outpaced demand. And that is what made home prices go down. Why do I bring this up? Because so many people assume incorrectly that things like higher rates will make home prices go down. Were you one of those people that got caught off guard by this? I remember saying a lot, hey guys, it's not interest rates that make a home price go down. It's how long it's sitting on the market. Interest rates do decrease the demand for a home. But if demand is already way higher than supply, it's not enough to make the price go down. So if we go into a recession, but there's still enough people buying homes for the supply that's out there, I don't expect home prices to drop. We would have to go into a recession that would cause too many sellers to put their houses on the market at the same time. And those houses would have to represent more inventory than there were buyers for them. It's the equilibrium that you're really trying to look at as an investor to figure out what prices are going to do. So if we hit a recession and nobody wants to buy homes and everybody wants to sell their home, that will trigger home prices dropping. See, recessions don't affect everybody equally. If you're running a business that's not affected by the recession, if you've saved your money, if you live beneath your means, if you come from old money, when everyone else is hurting, you might be doing great. These are the people that scoop up the assets. So let's not assume that just because there's a recession, houses are going to become free. So the safest thing you can do if you're afraid of a recession is invest your money and buy your real estate in the best locations. The problem is before a recession, the markets are usually high, which means everybody thinks that the expensive houses are risky and they all feel like it's safer to buy in the cheap areas. That's exactly where the floodwaters are going to hit when the recession comes. So areas like South Orange County, which is where everybody wants to live, that's going to be the safest place you could possibly be if we do hit an economic recession. Now let's look at the opposite. What if rates go down and it increases demand? If people feel good about the economy and they have money to invest and rates go down, you're going to see more people buying homes. You're also going to see more people selling homes because now that rates are lower, they can sell their house and take out their equity and buy another one without having a huge jump in their monthly payment. What this will probably lead to is going back to over asking price sales, as well as more transactions occurring overall. If there's more transactions, it helps the economy get better. There's more money going into the hands of realtors, brokers, loan officers, home warranty companies, home inspectors, home photographers, handymen. All the people involved in the transaction of a house make money, which means they all pay more income tax, which means they all spend more money, which fuels other businesses too. So not only is this likely to lead to an increase in prices, it's also likely to lead to a better overall economy. When money is changing hands frequently, more tax dollars are collected, because taxes are collected every time there's a transaction, which means if you get more transactions, you get more taxes. That leads to everybody feeling wealthy, which means they're likely to spend more money too, which leads to more money in somebody else's pocket. Or in a recession, everybody stops spending money. That makes everyone feel poor. That leads to less taxes being collected, and it leads to everyone making less income. You rarely ever hit a perfect homeostasis. Great question, Keith. You spent about 45 seconds to ask it, and I spent about 10 minutes answering it. Hope you guys all learned something there. All right, our next question comes from Clint in Lancaster, California.
Hi, Dave. My name is Clint Reuter. I'm typically a residential investor out of state and in state in California, but my parents have handed over a 1-acre piece of land, which is totally vacant. It's in an industrial park in a light commercial area. It's next to an electric utility, an LA County Fire Department, and an Amazon warehouse which is being built. And it seems like the area is growing in light industrial as well. I'm wondering how you would turn this piece of property into a profitable situation. I've thought about getting a commercial realtor, or I'm wondering if I can find somebody to rent it, perhaps build on it for free rent for a year or so, and then I would add to that and hopefully lease out some more space. Just wondering if you have any great advice. Thanks.
All right, Clint, here's what I would do if I was in your situation. I would start by calling the other tenants nearby. You mentioned a fire department, an Amazon warehouse, which is super sexy for this, and an electric utility. I would ask them if they have any need for additional space. I'm assuming it's office space. See if Amazon wants to lease it. And if they do, you might not have to develop this thing at all. They may pay to have it turned into what they want it for, sign a lease, and you're good to go. If they don't want it, I would ask one of their employees what they would do to get it leased out. Do they know anyone else in the area who's looking for warehouse space? Do they need offices for their staff that's going to be working nearby in the warehouse? Do they need an employee break room? If you can't drum up anything that way, I would just hit up a commercial real estate property manager and say, hey, I've got this space for lease. How do you guys charge to get it filled? That's really probably all you're going to have to do. They'll put up a sign. They'll start taking phone calls. You'll get tenants that want to lease it. Then you'll start negotiating how much tenant improvements will take place from you and how much they're going to spend to get the place where they want it to be. You're in a great position having someone give you this property. I'm actually very curious to know what kind of progress you make with this thing. So once you get that thing filled, go back to davidgreen24.com/ask and give me an update on how it went down. And our next video comes from Arsene, who's in France but lives in Delaware.
Hey, David. Question for you on return on equity versus return on investment. I'm sitting on a decent amount of equity, but the ROE or return on equity is pretty low. I'm pretty happy with the ROI and the cash flow, but I realize my ROE is pretty low, and I maybe could use that money more efficiently to capture more cash flow or capital. But I'm just wondering at what percentage of ROE do you start looking, or I guess what do you look at, ROE versus ROI, and at what point do you start thinking maybe you should pull some money out of the equity you have to redeploy and find maybe better deals to get more cash flow or capital? Thanks.
Ooh, this is a good question. And it's going to give me a chance to teach everyone here about how to analyze real estate more thoroughly. All right, so let's start with what is ROE versus ROI. ROI is return on investment. You're probably familiar with this metric. It's usually referring to the cash on cash return. Now, ROI and cash on cash return have become synonymous, but they shouldn't. The return on investment should include all the ways you make wealth from an investment, whereas cash on cash return only looks at the cash flow. So how do you determine the cash on cash return? You take the money that it's going to make in a year, you divide it by how much money you put into it, and you get the cash on cash return. This is super helpful when you are analyzing opportunities between asset classes. Do I want to buy this stock? Do I want to buy these bonds? Do I want to buy this certificate of deposit? Do I want to invest in this syndication? By looking at how much money you're putting in and how much you'll get back out, you can come up with an apples to apples comparison to help make the decision that's going to make you the most money. And that's what that metric is most useful for, comparing different investment options. Now, here's where it falls apart. If I buy a certificate of deposit, I'm only getting cash in one way, the money that the bank is going to pay me. If I buy stocks, I might be getting money in two ways. My dividend from the stock, if it pays that, as well as how much the stock appreciates. Now let's talk about ROE, return on equity. I talk about this quite a bit in my book, Long Distance Real Estate Investing. If you own property in Area A, would you be better off to sell it and buy several properties in Area B? This comes up when your property appreciates over time, which most of them have in the last decade. So maybe when you bought it, you were getting a 10% cash on cash return for your investment. You invested $100,000. It's making you $10,000 a year. It's a 10% return. But what if your equity has grown from $100,000 that you put into it to $400,000 because it's increased by a $300,000 value over 10 years? Even if your cash returns have doubled from $10,000 to $20,000, your return on equity might be bad. Here's why you need to know about return on equity. If you're making twice as much cash flow at $20,000 instead of $10,000, and you're dividing the $20,000 by the $100,000 that you initially put in, it looks like your returns have jumped from 10% to 20% because the lever of cash flow moved, but your lever of equity, you left the same at 100,000. Now, what if you took that 400,000 and you invested it somewhere else at a 10% return? What that means is your cash flow would double. You'd go from $20,000 a year to $40,000 a year. This is why we use ROE and ROI. All right, now let's take things into the second dimension. I hope I haven't lost you all. Not only can you increase your cash flow or your cash on cash return by reinvesting money at a better ROI than your current ROE, but what if you can make money that's more than just cash flow? What if you go buy a property beneath market value? What if you then fix it up and add more value to it? What if you then force cash flow by adding additional units? Or what if you increase the rents on the property? So instead of making $40,000 a year, you actually can bump them up to $45,000. This is why you need to understand all the ways that you make money in real estate. And that's going to be the topic of my next book. Now, if you want to make sure that you get notified when this book comes out, look me up on Instagram and DM me the word text. You'll get a prompt to join my text letter. And when the book drops, you'll be in my email list. So you'll hear about it. You'll also see it in the text letter. Thank you for the question. And congratulations on being in this position where your equity is not working very hard for you and it's lazy and you need to put that sucker to work. All right, we've got 2 more questions coming up before the rest of the show. But before we get to them, a quick break to hear from today's show sponsor, The One Brokerage. Hey, I'll make this quick. The One Brokerage is my mortgage company, and it's the best mortgage company in the country as far as I'm concerned. We've got all kinds of loans. We can get you bridge financing to buy and finance the rehab of burrs or flips. We can do conventional financing better than most other lenders can even dream of. If you're buying a primary residence, we have loans with as little as 3% down that will eventually drop their PMI as opposed to the FHA loans that don't. If you're buying a second home or a vacation property, we can get you at 10% down. We also have investment loans as well as DSCR products, commercial loans, ground up construction, and pretty much everything you can think of. We designed this company to be someone that you can go to for any kind of financing you would ever need so you can get comfortable with your loan officer and use the same person every single time knowing you're not being ripped off. So email us, intake@theonebrokerage.com, or if you want me to connect you with someone personally, DM me and ask for my email and I'll make sure I get it to you. There's nothing I'd like more than to help finance your future real estate and build your wealth. All right, let's get back into it.
Hi, David. My name's Michelle, and I'm from Southern California. First of all, I just want to say thank you so much for all the years of education, inspiration, as well as entertainment. I've loved listening to you, whether I'm on a road trip or at the gym. You're awesome. Thank you so much, and I'm very excited to support your new podcast. To get right to it, 3 years ago, I unexpectedly inherited $1.6 million. A little bit about me is I live a pretty modest life. I make around 50 grand a year. And I even live in a fifth wheel camper to save money on rent. And I travel a lot for work anyway, and I love not having roommates. At this point, I'd love to turn some of that capital into cash flowing assets for my future. While I do love working, I'd love to spend more time with my family and dive deeper into some hobbies. Last year, I bought my first investment property. It was a light cosmetic fixer near where I live in Southern California. I currently have it rented out, and it just about breaks even. Due to it being in a great location, I'm actually pretty happy with that, but now I'd like to focus on finding some cash flow. I've been looking at multifamily properties in the Midwest, more specifically Ohio, and I've even had a couple under contract. Unfortunately, none of them passed inspections, so I haven't purchased anything yet, but I'm still looking. My question to you is, what do you recommend that I do with this large amount of capital? I'm well aware I've been given a gift many only dream of, and I'd like to make the most of it. My expenses are around $4,000 a month, and I'd love to make around $6,000 to $8,000 a month through real estate before I consider leaving my job and doing this full time. Thanks, David.
All right, Michelle, thank you for your question here. Good news is you're in a wonderful position. And I don't think you should do anything different than you are. You inherited $1.6 million and you're not letting it burn a hole in your pocket. I love that. Make sure you don't owe taxes on that because I don't want to see you end up with a tax obligation. If you can invest $1.6 million at a 6% return, you can make $96,000 a year, which is $8,000 a month. That's why I like you going cash here. Now, if you become a good investor in this process and you're finding great deals and you get addicted to this and you want to buy more, you can always do a cash out refinance and then you can buy more real estate. But don't take on debt in the beginning when you're still learning this. Also, go very slow. You don't want to spend all your money and then near the end get good at this and figure out what you want to buy and want to buy more of it, but you're stuck having bought stuff already. Avoid turnkey companies because they're often ripoffs, and don't go after big glamorous deals. They're going to need a ton of work. You just want to buy nice, ugly, good location, needs cosmetic improvement properties, fix them up, and put a solid tenant in there. You're also going to want to get a really good property manager. Now, when it does come time to finance these things, make sure you DM me and get my email and I'll connect you with my team. I can also probably give you some advice about what areas you can invest in and maybe even connect you with a property manager if you go in the right space. I've got a market in mind that I think could work good for you and a solid crew of people that can get you started. So when you hear this, send me a DM, or if you already have my email, send me an email and I'll put you in the right direction. And then maybe we'll do a show showing people what you bought and how well they're doing. Thank you very much for the question and congratulations. Let's get your life turned around, Michelle and La Quinta. All right, moving into the next segment of our show, the comments section. I'm going to share some comments with y'all from my YouTube and Instagram accounts. First up, from Dino Cotritas. Always love the expert and honest takes that David brings to the table. Well done. Thank you. I always love comments like that. Great to hear you're going to continue to make a difference. Stay humble. It looks good on you. From Lily Giffen. Always. Thank you, Lily. I am looking forward to seeing all your shows, David. I met you twice in Denver, the Kung Fu guy. And I can tell by just looking at you that you're a stand-up dude and you have integrity in everything you do. You have my support, man. Excited to see you turn this chapter. From Adradi. Isn't it funny that some people, you get around them for 2 seconds and you could form an opinion on their energy? I don't like using the word energy because it's typically what we say when you don't know how to articulate what you're feeling. It just becomes a catch-all for I was too lazy to figure this out. From SamCam325. Is it worth house hacking when you don't have any current living expenses? That's always when it's tricky, right? Because the benefit of house hacking that makes it good is the low down payment and the risk that you're mitigating by getting rid of your rent payment. But what about when you're not making a rent payment? So if you can house hack, you're controlling your own financial destiny and you don't have to worry about someone taking it from you. Here's what I'd recommend. House hack and try to fill up the rooms or the units with other people and then stay in the free living situation that you have after you get the place stabilized or you move out of it once you've moved into it. Then you've always got a backup plan in case you lose that free living situation. Good question, though. From Yeo Shalog, what are your thoughts on Pad Split? All right, Pad Split is a company that I believe helps you find tenants to rent out your rooms. I can't comment on the company Pad Split because I've never used them, but I am a fan of the rent by the room strategy. I think more people should be renting rooms instead of apartment complexes, especially when we're in a bad economy. And I think more people need to learn to act like freaking adults and get along with each other instead of being difficult. Thank you to everybody who leaves comments. Please leave a comment on this video so I can put you in a featured episode of The David Green Show. All right, quick hitters. These are questions that came into me through Instagram. Can you have Brandon on for an episode? I miss it being Brandon and David. From Quinn Peterson. Brandon and I are in talks of doing a show together where he's going to interview me about some of the financial calamity that I've had to endure over the last 2 years. Nobody misses Brandon more than me. From Anonymous, what do you splurge on? What do I splurge on? That's a good question. Man, I really try not to splurge. I would say I definitely lean on the frugal side. I just don't like wasting money. Now, that doesn't mean I'm a cheapskate. I am very likely to spend money when it's for somebody else. If I'm trying to give somebody else a good experience, if somebody else needs something, if it's going to put a smile on their face, if it's going to encourage them, if it's going to lead to their faith being strengthened in God, I am much more likely to spend money on someone else than I am myself. I splurge on kids. One of my favorite things to do is get toys for little kids. When I grew up, we were pretty poor and we did have plenty of toys. It's not like I grew up with a corn skin cob doll or something like that, but I was told no a lot. I wasn't just given something because I wanted it. I had to earn it in some way. Or I had to wait for a birthday or Christmas or something like that. So today, when I see a little kid being good, when I see a little kid being nice to someone else that everyone's being mean to, or I see them really focusing on their homework or showing up to play their sport and trying hard, I love looking for opportunities to surprise them by taking them for Target and letting them pick out a toy. So I would say little kids, man, I will splurge on them every single time. I also like to surprise people by paying for some of their stuff when I'm in line. So if I get in line at a store like Target and there's somebody behind me who looks like they're stressed out or having a bad day, or I see a little kid ask for something and I see the look on their mom's face when they say no, it reminds me of when I was a kid and my mom would ask my dad if she could have money to get me a toy and he would say no, and I'd see that same look on her face and oh, it hurts so much. I hate that. And I will go buy the toy. So I don't know if that counts as a splurge, but I will say that is like my favorite parts of having extra money is being able to do that kind of stuff and completely catch people off guard. When are you going to do an in-person seminar in the San Jose area? For real, Tyler Murphy. Well, the problem with those is it's really hard to organize them. If I can find a location that doesn't charge us an arm and a leg, I would do more of them. Can you make a playbook for how to private jet hack? That's funny, Sean Wilkes. All right, here's how you private jet hack. First off, find a millennial who doesn't want a real job, but who dresses like they already have one with some camera equipment. They're everywhere because they all like making social media content. Second, look up private jets that you can rent. Third, show up with your social media lackey with their camera and their audio equipment in the best clothes that you possibly have. Make sure you're wearing sunglasses and a nice watch. And when they're taking a picture of you, look up and to the side like you don't know where the camera is. Only suckers look at the camera. High value men and the wealthy people, they always look off to the side because part of having a lot of money is being unable to determine where a camera is. Then get in the jet and take more pictures. Now, you're going to take a lot of these things because you're going to have to sparse them out over several months of social media content so everyone else thinks that you're super successful. Is this because you're going to sell them some product or it's going to help you? No, but your ego is going to love it. And your DMs might even pop off. Once that's done, have the pictures edited or filtered and post 1 a month or maybe 2 a month. But the point here is you don't want everyone to accuse you of being a douche, even though that's what they're all silently doing. So instead of saying, look at me in somebody else's jet, pretending like it's mine, you say, I worked really hard to get to this point in life, implying that it is your jet. Never stop believing. Hustle harder. Grind until they can't ignore you. Hashtag goals. Outwork everyone. Now, nobody is actually going to believe this. They're all really going to judge you. But you can convince yourself that's not happening, creating a delusion in your own mind so you don't feel guilty doing it. You are now halfway there to being an influencer that can sell online courses and make money from other people without having a real job or bringing any real value to the community. You're welcome. Follow me for more hacks like this. Hashtag JetHack. All right, moving into the real news report. I love this segment of the podcast. Our first news article, home prices hit another record high in June. Home prices continue to climb in June, with the National Home Price Index rising to 5.4% annually. While prices continue to climb on a year-over-year basis, June's figure was down 5.9% from May's growth. It's still remarkable given the fact that home prices are at record highs, and in June, mortgage rates were still around 7%, said the Bright MLS chief economist Lisa Sturtevant. Mortgage rates have since fallen since June, but there is evidence that even the decline in rates has not been enough to bring buyers back to the market. Some buyers are waiting for home prices and not just interest rates to come down. Inventory should also increase, which will help move the market towards more balance and slow upward pressure on home prices. Some local markets where prices surged during the pandemic and where inventory is rising quickly could see year-over-year price declines. But in most markets, inventory is still low by historic standards and sellers still have the upper hand. Yeah, that sums it up. It's still a seller's market, even though rates have gone up. The Federal Reserve hinted at possible interest rate cuts later this year, responding to slowing inflation and economic growth concerns. This has sparked discussions about the potential impact on markets and the broader economy. So what does this mean? Well, it could mean a couple things. The Fed has said, that rhymes, doesn't it? We've had rates high for a while. It's time to bring them back down. The Fed could be looking at a possible recession looming from employers not hiring and say, hey, we need to get the economy going stronger, so let's lower rates. Or the Fed is paying attention to the real estate market and knows sellers are not going to put their houses back on the market until they can buy a new house for something close to the interest rate that they currently have. We will keep an eye on this and report to you as things come. This is also a reminder. In addition to the podcast, I also do YouTube Lives where I share the news about the real estate market. So thank you for listening to the podcast here on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, but also go subscribe to my YouTube channel to catch content that is not a podcast. You could go to youtube.com/@DavidGreen24, or you can Google in the YouTube search engine, The David Green Show, and subscribe to be notified anytime I go live. All right, let's get into the viral clips of the week, one of the funnest parts of the podcast.
I know I just got a Tacoma, but I figured out a way to skip 3 months of payments. Now, I didn't even know this was a thing. I didn't even know this was possible, but look here. I just got this in the mail. It says updated payment information, skip up to 3 payments. In the letter, it basically says that I can refinance my loan somehow, which means buying it again. I don't know. But it did say I could skip 3 payments, so I might have to do it. Now, instead of having 22%, they are offering me 18%. Now, I don't know the national averages or anything like that, but I think 18% should be good. My credit card is 30, so this might be better. Gravity lending, let me know if anybody has ever used it, if it's good or not, let me know. I know it sounds crazy, but if I could skip 3 payments, I'll definitely do it. If I could skip the payments, that means I can get a new sound system in the Toyota. For some reason, the speakers suck. There's no low end, anything at all. Me not having 3 months of payments, I actually going to have a lot more money to spend on the truck, new wheels, new rims, and I might hit up D-Tronics for a new light bar and sound system. Let me know what y'all think down below.
There you have it, folks. If you could save some money on your current debt and move from 22 to 18% rather than paying that debt off, you could just go trick out your truck and get yourself deeper into the problem that you were in before. But don't worry, I'm sure that there are politicians that you can vote for that will take the money away from you, the people that are saving it and making it, and help this person pay off their debt to make everything fair. I know that's a little bit cynical. I'm sure it's not always like that, but my goodness. Let's hope that this was a goofball person on TikTok and they're not actually going to do any of this. Okay, this seems like tomfoolery and madness, and I don't know that I'm the right person to answer this, so I'm going to actually bring in some help from today's emergency co-host, Batman. This clown, for real. Yeah, I'm afraid that he is. He's going to skip some payments to trick out his truck. Is he going to use this truck like a Batmobile to fight crime? Does he have a cage in the back for criminals? How fast can he get to Gotham PD? No, man, he wants a light bar and a sound system so he can attract more attention to himself and take the attention off of his debt. Why doesn't he just become a billionaire like me and then he won't have to worry about debt? I don't think he has that kind of privilege, Bruce. Don't say my name. Sorry, Batman. I'm going to find this guy. We can't leave him on the streets. He's too irresponsible. All right, that actually could help. Can you take him out of his misery before he takes on more debt? He's going to have more to worry about than debt. All right, thanks, old Batman there. We may have just stopped another foolish youth from taking on more debt and ruining their future. All right, folks, that was our show for today. We covered some very interesting stuff, including some math, how to calculate ROI versus ROE, how to efficiently allocate your capital with that information, how cash-on-cash return and ROI are not synonymous terms and are misleading when they're used that way, what some of the comments that I got on my YouTube and Instagram pages were, how to invest $1.6 million to safely achieve financial freedom, what to do with the house that's not selling when you've got a flip going on, how to avoid ending up in that situation yourself by understanding actives, pendings, and closed sales and how to interpret that information, what to do with the commercial property that you inherit, and where I splurge financially myself. If you're a fan of the show, it would make a huge difference if you leave me a 5-star review wherever you listen to this. And please make sure you subscribe to the podcast. You can also reach out to me if you've got a short-term rental that you want somebody to manage, you need financing to buy future real estate, or you want to book a consultation. Just email help@davidgreen24.com. As always, thank you so much for listening. I wouldn't have the show without you. And thanks for helping me build the best real estate investing community in the world at Real Talk Real Estate. Also, if you know anyone looking for a job in some of the positions that I mentioned earlier in the show, please spread the word and have them email me. I'll see you guys next week on Real Talk Real Estate. Thanks for listening to Real Talk Real Estate. If you would like to be featured on the podcast, I'd love to have you. Visit davidgreen24.com/ask and submit your question there. Also, please do me a huge favor and share the show with someone that you love that you think would benefit from this message, and make sure you're subscribed to get notified for future episodes. If you want to reach out directly, you can also DM me on Instagram or social media and check out davidgreen24.com.